Welcome to the second season of the Red Dice Diaries podcast, a rambling tour of the wonderful hobby of RPGs by a long-time player and GM. To kick off, we're going to talk about the UK Games Expo 2019, specifically the Games on Demand segment of the convention, since that's what I was involved in helping run GMing games. We're joined by my lovely wife Hannah and Lloyd Gyan, who are both involved in Games on Demand. Hannah GMing and helping with the admin, and Lloyd was the mastermind behind the whole affair. But before we start, just to get it out of the way, I'm sure that everyone's heard about the controversy surrounding a certain game at UK Games Expo 2019. Now, I'm not really in a position to comment on that directly since, like I said, I was pretty much confined to the Games on Demand room for the majority of the convention. From our point of view, certainly in the games that we played in, there were already sort of checks and balances in play, such as using the X card to make sure that the people we were running games for, if they did feel uncomfortable with anything, they had a way of addressing that was already taken into account and was sort of part of the framework of the games. But I was glad to see that UK Games Expo sort of handling it very professionally, released a statement, took positive action, and then sort of moved on with hopefully making sure that everyone had a really great convention. So I don't know whether you've got anything else you want to say on that, Lloyd, before we move on.
What I would like to say on that is that I think UK Games Expo did the right thing when it came to moving that whole thing up, and this debacle will probably not die anytime soon, and it doesn't need my opinion on how things work because I wasn't there, and I feel for everyone involved in that and everyone who went through that, and hopefully at some point we'll have an official statement from everyone involved, and we'll see how gaming will change. It will definitely cause an impact to next year's UK Games Expo, and probably on Dragon Beat as well, on that matter. But that remains to be seen. And as I do not want to speak for other people who aren't here, I am sure that we'll go to a more positive place from now on.
Yeah, I mean, I'd certainly hope that when mistakes are made in this manner, that lessons will be learnt from that and they'd be carried forward, since I think that's the best way of handling things like that, trying to learn from them.
You see, you're right, but at the same time, OSR still exists, so you never know. You never know that people just won't pick up that things are bad.
Cannot resist any opportunity to diss my beloved OSR,
Mate,
or as I'm calling it, small book games now.
Listen. I am being nice, okay? I'm trying not to bring controversy in there. So I'm bringing another one that we should address. But more importantly, talking about Games on Demand itself and going through UK Games Expo in general, my God, what a year. What an actual year.
It's been really good.
The numbers came through. I believe it was 25 unique visitors and 45,000 unique visitors and 45,000 repeat visitors. So we're looking at big boy numbers for this year. That's probably the biggest it's ever been. And it showed because even though they took 3 NEC halls for the NEC and the Hilton had more rooms to use for role-playing, we still sold out.
Heaving, wasn't it?
Oh, good Lord, it was heaving.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, they expanded the amount of space available both in the Hilton and at the NEC. And to me, it felt as packed and sort of full of people and games and stuff going on as last year, if not more, which is quite impressive, like you say, considering the extra space they're laid on, the extra capacity that they're laid on. So, like you say, it's a staggering amount of people who attended the convention. And obviously, yeah, some people only attended for like one day, some people came for a couple of days, some came for the whole shebang, some were there like yourself on Thursday, sort of getting in nice and early. So it was just like a permanently sort of changing and sort of shifting group of people. But there was never a point when I sort of looked around the Games Expo and went, oh, it's looking a bit empty or it's looking a bit bare. On like the sort of occasions when we got out to the Games on Demand room, even just walking around, there were like loads of people everywhere, like chatting to each other, moving between games. Every time I looked in one of the other rooms when I went past, absolutely heaving with people. The trade hall, as always, absolutely rammed with people.
I would love to say I saw more of the trade hall, but I think I got like half an hour of trade hall because I was working so hard. I did see a lot of the Hilton, and So my usual way of telling how busy the Games Expo is the Hilton on Sunday night after 9 o'clock. Usually there's like two people in there, and then it's me, and then my com buddy Matthew Bryan, and that's it. And then maybe might be joined by like one or two people here and there, and then you get lucky, and that's all you've got. But Sunday at the end, the entire bar was packed till 1 a.m.
So that's Matthew Bryan, aka Danny McGee.
Danny McGee, my boy Danny McGee. Big up my boy Danny McGee. Brap, brap.
That's it. Holler at your boy Danny McGee.
Holler at your boy. Shout out to Danny. And I mean, the Hilton bar is not cheap. Let's not pretend the Hilton bar isn't cheap. Like it is well and truly up there in the heavens when it comes to price. So for people to be staying there, playing board games still, and doing all that on the Sunday that the con ended meant that a lot of people were in, and a lot of people are still in the mood to keep going. It's the first time I've seen and I thought that maybe, just maybe, we should move the con to a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday event at this point.
Yeah, I mean,
I cannot believe how busy it was.
Yeah, but I've got to admit, as I said to you, and as me and Hannah was saying, it's like after going this year, we were also like, oh yeah, well, like, maybe we'll think about going on Thursday next year, like fitting a bit of extra time. And even if it's a case of like, oh, Games on Demand's only running from like Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and I know you were talking about potentially like adding in a later slot on Sunday. We're like, well, nip down on Thursday, it'd be good to like socialise with people, do a few bits and pieces before we like really sort of throw ourselves into the Games on Demand.
Well, I mean, I would love to have started gaming on the day before, but the con still technically starts on the Friday.
Yeah.
But Thursday is great for going in, for picking up your badge, seeing what's around, seeing the traders that are about, and any of the small like meetups and things that are going about. Because a lot of people know when the trade hall opens. So taking it from Gen Con, because I've been to Gen Con. I'm going again, by the way. If you're there, let me know. I'll say hello. Hi, how's it going? Hey. Taking it from Gen Con, all the meetups happen the day before.
Yeah.
Everyone does the big, okay, we're going to party, we're going to get together, we're going to go wild the day before. And then the thing happens. So I'm looking at this and I'm looking at the stats, and I think as UK Games Expo gets bigger, the Thursday before is going to be the day to be in, just to see everyone in a group and get horribly sloshed and party hard. I was at 3 parties on Thursday.
Well, what can I say, man? I think personally, I'm just a little bit wary about going down on the Thursday, because last time I went down like a day early to like Gen Con, like UK, when that was a thing, like Hannah fell off a bus on the Thursday, so you know what I mean.
That was like 17 years ago.
And like we spent like the first day of the con, instead of like sightseeing in London and shit, we spent it all
That
at
is
like
so
a hospital.
sweet. I mean, that's both romantic and terrifying. I love it. It's
That's it,
really
man.
fun.
Yeah, I like to get both sides of the coin, But
I can understand that.
I suppose for like anyone who's not aware of what precisely Games on Demand is, we should do like a bit of the sales pitch.
We probably should have said that at the beginning, but it's too late now, and they're still listening. They're already all in. So
That's it. I mean, just give a very quick sales pitch. I'm sure Lloyd will pitch in here. Games on Demand is effectively a series of 2-hour taster games where there's multiple GMs, all with a selection of games prepped to run 2-hour slots, where people can just come along. You don't have to have any equipment, any dice, any pencils, pads, whatever. That's all provided. You can come along, just try out various different types of games. Try it out for like a little taster for 2 hours, then you can move on to something else, and you don't have to book it massively far in advance. You can get tickets on the day from the main desk at UK Games on Demand.
not to mention, also, as of next year, I will have taster starter games laid on tables. So people who want to GM and don't have any equipment and want to try their hands at GMing, I'll have these very simple, easy games that they can take, sit in front of one of us, and give us a game, usually 2 or 3. I'd usually try and schedule those to be usually on the quieter hours, because I did some actual stats this year. Speaking of which,
so like a GM mentor sort of
like a GM
setup.
mentor thing.
That's a really good idea.
I was like, I want to give it a shot. And we had, I mean, in total, we had 304 players as of me checking now, coming through Games on Demand. So I think we're busy enough that we can afford to do a few extra funny things.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, it's good to like trial things like that. Then, so if you trial it next year, let's say it really doesn't work, or there's not that much interest. I mean, hopefully there will be, but if there's not, you haven't really lost anything by doing it, and you might find something that really appeals to people and that hopefully can bring more people into the hobby. And as you're doing with the main games at the minute, where people are like, oh, I want to try some different games, but I don't really want to commit to jumping into like a long running game. They can just try something out for a couple of hours, because let's face it, worst case scenario, if you're in a game and you're like, oh, it's not really my cup of tea, you're in it for like 2 hours. It's not your whole con gone. So I think that'd be a great idea to get people into GMing who are like, oh, I give it a go, but I'm not really sure. They can sort of dip their toe in the water a little bit and give it a little try out.
I think that'd be a great idea. We definitely should do that, because last year I did not think would be as big as we were this year, and this year we were massive. And being able to pull in 35 people on any slot is incredible for me. I'm looking forward to next year when we'll hopefully do just as well, if not better. And also, if we're going to compete with the Adventurous League, we need to go big or go home, everybody. Just saying. Just saying.
A couple of things I particularly enjoyed about the games on demand this year is I always enjoy sort of like, when you have the quieter slots, although those seem to be getting like less and less, where like if we've got like as we did this year, if you've got like a game with like 2 people in, like quite often some of the GMs who aren't busy will be sort of called in to like bump up the numbers and like make up those games. So I got to play in a bit of Slay Industries and a bit of Victoriana run by Martin Carson, and those are I played Slay Industries years ago, but like once years ago, and I've never played Victoriana. Those were a couple of games that I really enjoyed, to the point where like I was like, oh, I might get a copy of that Victoriana. That seems like quite cool.
It's not bad, is it?
Yeah, it's a nice game, and it's like I've found, because me, I'm not a big like sort of mechanics heavy sort of like person, but I found that the mechanics in that, they're a little bit crunchy in the games I tend to go for, but not so much that it like interfered with me enjoying the game. I still had a really great time like playing it, and obviously everyone knows a little bit of something about like the Victorian era, even if it's just like the sort of common tropes like Sherlock Holmes and stuff like that.
True, that also is true, and I really think Victoriana is one of those games that not a lot of people have heard of, but a lot of people would enjoy if they knew more about it. We had a good spread of games all the way through. We had a lot of indie stuff, a lot of in-between stuff. We even had D&D and Pathfinder for my sins, but we had a lot of stuff to give out to people, and I'm very impressed with what's called the array of games that people have given out for this year. I wish I had played more instead of running so much, thinking about it, but I was busy doing admin with Hannah, who thank you very much for being my glamorous
No worries, mate.
Yeah, so my lovely wife was serving as the Lloyd's glamorous assistant, helping with the admin, which
when I wasn't running Star Trek.
Well, that's it. I mean, obviously, I'm sure from like me and the other GMs, like thanks to both of you for like doing that, because from our perspective, we, beyond like taking the tickets in occasionally, we really didn't have to get involved with that at all, so we could just concentrate on running the game. So that made it a hell of a lot easier for us. So thanks from us for that.
No props. We're in a neighborhood. It was easy.
That's it. I mean, I think one of the other things that I enjoyed about games on demand was you start after you've been sort of going for like a few years. I think we've been like 2 or 3 years now, haven't we?
I think we've done 4.
Because I remember like the first.
You've done 3. I know this because it's only been going for 4 years.
We were at the
first year we didn't turn up. We didn't do games on demand though.
No, you were okay.
We were at one where
we need to clear the air here.
Go on, break it down.
The first year was just me by myself doing games on demand, and you two were in on a table like way up there, and I was on the table way down there, and I waved at you, and that was your contribution to games on demand that year. And then you were
from Small Acorns, man, Small Acorns.
That was the year when I ended up working the stall at Spirit Games because it was so busy in the trade hall, and that was the year when the trade hall was in the Hilton.
No, the trade hall was still in the NEC for that one. It wasn't in the.
Oh, there was a trade hall in the Hilton.
No, it wasn't the trade hall. It was just like all the games were like jammed together in the Hilton.
Sparrows was inside the Hilton.
Oh right, okay. I don't remember, to be honest.
I don't remember that year very well.
No, I'm not surprised because you were like virtually in a coma by the end of it, and I'm not surprised, man. But no, like I say, another thing about it I've enjoyed about it is, after you've been going a few years, you start to like recognise like people that you see there, like people who sort of come regularly to it. So I mean, just to give an example that I know we talked about on the day, Lloyd, we had Alex Rose, who was GMing for Games on Demand, who sort of came and played a couple of years ago. Came
Are
back.
you talking about the gun show?
Yeah, I'm talking about Gun Show.
Okay.
Then he came back the next year, played a few more games, and was like, I've really enjoyed it, to the point where this year he was like, I'd actually like to do some GMing, and that's great that someone's enjoyed it that much that they then want to contribute to it. And also, like say, when I was running my Eldritch Tales game, like seeing Colin Green, who I speak to quite a lot online, and just like actually like connecting with people and sort of seeing them in person, just to like say hey and like play some games with them. So obviously, like I know a lot of us do a lot of online gaming, and as you know, I'm a big fan of online gaming. I really enjoy it, but it is nice to like see people in person and actually sit around a table, have some drinks, like chat about stuff and play some games. So that's one of the really great things to me, because like everyone who's at the convention is there to play games and enjoy themselves.
Yep.
Yeah, it's such a great atmosphere.
It
Just
really
have all those gamers there, and there's so many people like walking around in various different cosplay, and then you got the Vikings stood at the end of the path having a ciggy. You've got all the stormtroopers wandering about, and the Daleks in the trade hall.
having a freaking laugh. We've got the Deadpool minions.
Oh yeah.
Shout out to my Deadpool minion boys.
Yeah, there was like a Lord of the Rings like Uruk Hai there that I saw.
Oh yeah,
which is pretty cool. Although he must have been like hot as, like stood there in like the full metal armor with like a full face mask on and like leathers and all the works, and I was like, damn, that's some commitment walking around in this heat.
People took a lot. It was the temperature was lovely. Can I just say that as well? Everything went out perfectly fine. The temperature was great. The weather was fantastic. Everything was just lovely.
It rained a bit here and there, but mostly you were indoors, so you didn't notice anyway.
See, I think the rain as well, it was just enough to like cool it down just a little bit, so it wasn't like oppressively hot, but we still mostly had nice sunshine. I mean, one of the things I like about the Hilton, and the fact it's split between the Hilton and the NEC, is you've got like the little sort of lake areas and like the sort of wooded areas between. So even though you're sort of in a big city, there's still like places where you can just go and like sit down by the water and like chill out and whatever. And it's nice and if you want to get away from things
nice
for a
little
bit.
park area in between that you can just go and sit for 5 minutes if you need to.
That's it. If it's all getting a bit hectic and you just want like a bit of a breather, you can just go and chill out, and it's all there within like walking distance from the Hilton and the NEC. You've not got to like go, I've got to like get a bus to go somewhere or whatever. It's just, I mean, to be honest, if like a fat old man like me can walk it, like anyone can walk it.
Oh man, I thoroughly enjoyed everything to do with Games of the Man this year, and as someone who has had to work that shift so long and be so exhausted, it was really nice also to actually be able to catch up to you all while it was up there. Even though we didn't do much talking until the very end when we had our final team meeting, which, by the way, if you're listening to, it will always be 40 hours, not 10 minutes, because I like to chat. That's just how life is, and life sucks. It was nice to do all that. It was nice to just get everyone together and then just talk for a while, because we never had a proper team meeting. We just basically turned up and went right into it. And then we finished it, went right out of it. That was it. It was done. Also, massive shout out to everyone who came to help us out. Bruce Cunnington, Brendan LaSalle, Chloe, what's called Epistolary Richard, Bill Heron, Eurisi Dice, Carl, who was visiting from America and then got roped into doing things whether he liked it or not. Thank you for all those people.
Yeah, it was really good to meet all those guys. They are great guys, and I'm so glad so many people got to like play in their games.
That's, I mean, it was one of the things that struck me. It was like you say, people who were just like visiting or like down to the convention for a day, who were quite willing to like pitch in and go, I'll run something, or more like trying to like offend Lloyd off and be like, all right, Lloyd, I'll run something.
It was normally that's me, by the way. Normally I'm pushing for GMs, but this year people even came down from like Aram from up to 4 players. Aram Avram, he came down just to run games for me for 4 hours and then went home again. And I was like, oh well, okay. I mean, yeah, do it. Come on in, let's have a good time. That's all he did. Same for Eurisi Dice. I feel I would love to say Games of the Man can pull in all those indie gamers to turn up and just have a good time and then get out, so they don't have to commit to like going through all the motions of submitting a game and putting on the system and then maybe getting players. Whereas I'm like, oh, I'll guarantee you players and I'll guarantee you a game. Just turn up and say hello and go home.
Yeah. And
that's kind of what I want Games of the Man to be, because that's kind of how it is at Gen Con. At Gen Con, there's 16 tables. that are constantly rotating, and GMs just come in and put things down and get things done. And most, like, there's no core GMs like we have. There's no one who's like, yeah, well, all we do is run games and that's it. Everyone does either the admin or they run games, and everyone else just turns up with their games, runs it, and goes home. And they pick slots they come into, and that's it. And I would love to get to the point where I have 16 tables, more tables than the Adventurous League. I'm watching you guys. I'm coming for you. I was here first. You don't get to come after me like that. More tables than the Adventurous League. Get 16 tables lined up, full of GMs playing things, and then we just put people on tables and then just move on. I would love that more than anything else. That's what I'm really hoping for. But that's a problem for future Lloyd. Maybe next 2 years, Lloyd.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to give a shout out to like Martin Carson, who's a friend of ours from LARP, who came down and sort of ran a lot of games when we're looking at the figures.
To
be fair, Martin Carson kind of put it out of the butt. I'm really impressed with that. Don't tell him I said that. I hope he doesn't listen to this podcast. It's fine.
What did he do? He ran like 12 games or something like altogether?
Yeah, 12 games, but like pretty much over that's like 24 hours of games over a 3-day period. That's a lot of gaming, boy.
That's it. I mean,
Homie did not sleep.
I mean, a good thing is, as well as I know we've said in person that this year was because there were more GMs this year. It meant that there were times when like people could have like a rest, or like in my case, like you could order me to go to bed and like have some sleep, so that I'd still be conscious later on, and it meant like we didn't have to worry about, like, I know like the year previously when it was basically like Hannah, you, Wit, and me, it was a case of like, oh, if it's a bit busy, we need everyone there because we need everyone on the tables, whereas you could sort of, I mean, apart from like die-harders like Martin, who's like, I'll run games until my eyes bleed. You know, like the rest of us could rotate out a bit and like give people a chance to like go and look at the rest of the con and stuff like that, or just get some sleep and some rest, or grab a bit of food or whatever. So I thought that was really useful.
It was fantastic, and it was even better when I realized that you all actually still had your voices, and I still had my voice at the end of that.
Yeah.
Although to be fair, I was wavering on the Sunday, and then I discovered like a single throat suite in like my room at the Hilton. I was like, I'm saved. I'm gonna buy like a giant bag of like lockets or something next year and like put them on the front desk with the water and everything.
That's probably a good idea. I should probably do. I normally have
Strepsils or something.
Well, I had Tyro bets on me for like the hardcore boys. That's the good stuff. That's the good kush that I normally have carrying with me for this convention. It was also really nice to, aside from the game running and everything else, actually see the yellow shirts and have a conversation with them. There were a lot of, so this convention will games will not run without its volunteers. Like 100% won't do it, and we would not have Games on Demand if it weren't for our volunteers. Without our volunteers,
all the yellow shirts are amazing.
All the yellow shirts who come in and help us out are amazing,
and the blue shirts that organise them, and what's her name? The lady with the cowboy hat.
Jude, who does all the. I mean, I wish I was as good as Jude to do what Jude does. I wish I could do that. I don't even want to think about how I would do that, but I wish I was good enough to do what Jude does.
What if it helps, man? I can bring you a cowboy hat for next year.
That's not gonna help.
She delegates.
She delegates, but she also knows where everything is. Like, it's also, was that a dig at me? Were you trying to read me here? It's not red. I'm not saying I took over the thing. It's just, it's the first year of us having admin. I wanted to make sure it was okay. I will delegate more next year, I promise. And I'll do more of the overall general thing. I'll take more of a managerial role, and you can do all the admin and everyone can be happy. Okay? Bye. It wasn't like I was saying you're incompetent. I just get really worried that everything's okay and we are having fun and everyone okay.
Like you say though, it was the first year of sort of having that aspect of it in the format that you had it this year. So obviously you wanted to make sure it was done correctly, because like you say,
oh, absolutely.
In order for Games on Demand to keep going, it's got to
your
keep
baby.
Yeah.
I totally understand why you like really sort of want to be close hands on with it. Yeah. It is your baby. You've proper worked hard on it.
Also,
and it's paying off.
I mean, hey, we had 8 tables this year. 8 tables. We had the whole room to ourselves. None of this, we're gaming and like, in the corner, some other people having more fun than us because they got more people. And I'm just staring at them with daggers in my eyes going, how dare you play that game? This time, there was no one there. And any tables that were empty because we had no players. And that's all I wanted. We had space, we had
Yay.
air, we had water, we didn't have food because I don't have a car and I can't go get a box of snacks and put in the room. But next year, if we're lucky and I learn to drive, I will bring a van and I'll pack it full of like snacks and stuff so I can pass it to you all while you're there.
We could always get a supermarket to deliver to the Hilton. I'm sure the
Yeah.
Hilton would love us for that.
I mean, I'm sure the can we just not do that? We can. I think we need to spend some money at the Hilton to make the Hilton not hate us.
I mean, I think one of the telling points as well was on pretty much every day, if I remember correctly, even when we were sort of like wrapping up and we were like finishing the last slot, we had like people sort of sticking their heads into the room, asking us if there was more gaming going on. So obviously, like no pun intended, like the demand for games on demand is quite high. Like there was never really a point in time when we're like, oh, there's a bit of tumbleweed blowing through the room, like the room's entirely empty. Even on the less busy slots, there was still like
always up to half or more.
Yeah, there was still like 2, 3, 4 like tables occupied, and like people, even if they weren't sort of like getting involved in the game straight away, they were like looking in and sort of asking what was going on. And then I know a fair few of those people sort of bought tickets and turned up later for slots. So even if they were like, oh well, I can't jump into a game now, I've got X, Y, and Z going on. There was sufficient interest that they were like, oh, you know, what slots have you got going? I'll maybe grab a ticket and come back later, which is all good, you know, because you've got to sort of put the word out there and keep that level of interest going to like make sure that games on demand can carry on growing.
Yeah, and you also have to make sure that we don't end up in incredibly embarrassing and controversial scenes because we kind of need to keep ourselves right. I mean, if Pathfinder can get through an entire 10 years of this without somehow causing a problem and growing every minute, and Adventures League can come in with us like 10 million people. Do you see the picture of the Adventures League guys? They all look so cool. I'm really mad about Adventures League. I'm really
you hide it well, man. You hide it well.
I'm so angry that they got so many people and we did that. So bad. It's like if people can come up and do that and somehow still manage to go. And Adventures League literally came. This is the first year they've done Adventures League of that scale at UK Games Expo, and it showed that there was definitely a market for it.
Yeah.
And if they can get 2 big ass rooms at the Hilton to themselves so they can party hard, why can't we? Why can't we also show them how it's done? That's what I think. Why can't we get 16 tables, fill it with GMs, and fill it with players every single slot?
So if you do want to do a Games on Demand game next year, you need to bring with you as your first game 1 game of some sort of fantasy D&D equivalent.
Please don't.
Suitable for 3 to 7 players.
You know what? Can I have a rant on your podcast? It's
Yeah,
coming
yeah,
down.
go for it, man.
What is
Go
up
on.
with people coming to Games on Demand and asking for D&D? I'm like, bruh, it's literally next door. Like, next door. Like, it's not even like you have to go far. It's literally next door. What if they Dungeons and Dragons? Go next door. Go next door.
Didn't say it has to be D&D.
I mean,
Yeah.
Some sort of fantasy RPG.
I mean, I can see your point there, Lloyd. So, like as you say, there's no point in us replicating what the Adventurers League is already doing successfully.
Who would do it and even better than we would as well. So
Yeah,
I'm like,
I mean-
why are you here?
I mean, for me, the strength of games on demand as opposed to something like the Adventurers League, and this is like not to knock them at all because they do what they do it well. The popularity shows that the strength of games on demand is like it's not linked to a single game. So, like say, if you want your D&D, you've got Adventurers League, you can have, and your Pathfinder, you can have your fill. Whereas if you go like, oh, you know, fancy trying something a bit different, you've got games on demand next door where it's like, oh, we've got like a whole like smorgasbord of like different games here with different
Okay, then
gems.
fine. So if you want to be a GM for Games on Demand next year, you need to bring with you 1 adventure suitable for 3 to 7 players with PG-13 sort of restrictions, you know.
That's
Strict
pretty much all I asked. Really.
PG-13.
PG-13 people bring 3 games, all PG-13 and lower, can take 2 to 7 players. Well, preferably not 7.
Thing is,
6 is like.
I think that
Yeah.
the whole sort of PG-13s are a very good idea. But the thing is, it's fairly easy to fit sort of different subjects in that sort of age rating. I mean, like, I ran games where there's like people getting like buried alive in like sand collapsing in deserts with like various like Cthulhu horrors. I ran a game where there's effectively like a space station being like filled with like techno zombies, and it's you can keep all that stuff PG-13 based on your descriptions and still have like a good, fun, enjoyable game. It's like you don't have to. Oh, I know we said this when we were discussing it in person, because obviously we don't know in advance the people we're going to be running the games for. Yeah. You have to be a bit sensitive to the fact that like you don't know these people, you don't know what life experiences or whatever that they've had. So if you can just generally sort of keep it, like you said, that PG-13, in conjunction with like having the controls in place, such as the X card, it just means that everyone can relax and enjoy the game, and you don't have to worry about that sort of stuff while the game's going on.
It also means that people who want to bring their kids to Game on Demand for the first RPG their kids have played sometimes get to do so and know that we're going to make sure that it's a good game for their kids to play.
You know, side note, there actually is a kids role-playing Games on Demand that's happening in the NEC.
All right.
All right, I didn't know about that.
Yeah, I know. It's like they never get any advertising for some reason. And next year,
props to the kids role-playing group, whatever it's actually called.
Next year, two things I gotta do. One, I gotta print like table circles so we could just write who's on what table, whatever like we did this year. And two, we gotta put a sign up saying you can go to the NEC to sign up for Kids Games on Demand.
Yeah, because I mean, one of the it'd be good to try and like, help other people like publicise their stuff as well, because it's very much that sort of one hand washes the other situation. As you were saying, Lloyd, Games on Demand wouldn't happen if it wasn't for the goodwill of like the excellent volunteers at UK Games Expo and like, all the other people involved. So obviously, if we can sort of like help out somebody else and direct people to them, if it's going to suit them, that's all to the good, and it helps the convention as a whole.
Yeah, right. And part of all of those things that come through, I am more than happy to collaborate with other groups that are there to get things done, except for the Cthulhu Masters. They're my enemy and they must be destroyed. And I'm happy to collaborate with any other group to work together and like promote their work as well. If I have to like put a sign up for them, I can do that. Like we had a sponsor. Okay, before I go to sponsor, Doug Ragmore, our D&D runner. Thank you for being there. Always good shout out to you. We love you so much. We're sorry we destroy your body every year. We had a sponsor this year, the RPG Pipeline, which I do my own podcast for. James and Lloyd read RPG Blood, so you don't have to. And they sponsored us for this year, which meant we had a budget, which meant we could print out things like posters and take like advertising out and do all those other things. And if I still have some budget left at the end of that, I'm happy to spend a little bit more to help promote other companies as well at the point. And I think Kids Games on Demand, it would be a great thing to work together with.
I mean, again, in that sort of vein, I mean, shout out to Wit, who sort of like designed the posters and stuff like that, because I know the previous year that there was a few people who were sort of like, I didn't really know like Games on Demand was going on, whereas with the like increased publicity that I know you were sort of keen on this year, Lloyd, I honestly didn't come across anyone who was like, oh, I don't know where Games on Demand is. There were a few people who were like, oh, I'm not sure where it is, and you could just be like, see that sign there with the giant arrow.
Follow that.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So it was quite easy to direct people.
We had the posters hanging around. Like, once again, I repeat again, can we give a best shout out to Jude and the volunteers for taking my... Can I swear on this podcast? I'm about to swear on this podcast.
For it.
For taking my shit and actually going, yeah, sure, we'll put your posters up for you, Lloyd. Your ego is not big enough. We'll just make it a bit bigger. Like, they have no obligation to put those posters up. None whatsoever. They have no reason to help me out. If they said, no, I'll go, okay, take the posters and get the hell out. But they do that and they help us out, and it's like it's mind blowing that they do this, and I owe them my life.
I've got to admit, I did find it a bit bizarre when I went to like go and take some of the tickets in to Jude with Hannah, and there was like that massive poster with my face on it, like on the door to the room. And I was like,
oh man, I those posters were worth every goddamn penny. Every penny. Those posters. Last year I printed on more like flimsy paper, and this is like nope. We'll print a proper poster paper. It's gonna go up on the wall, and people are gonna effing love it. And they did. They absolutely loved those posters. And I gave like people. You all had a poster to take away with you, like
yeah.
Thank you present. I gave mine away because I don't need that ego hit.
So I also loved it that my
I'm
poster
going
made.
to stick ours up on here.
I loved it that my poster made me look like if like your granddad lived in like a cyberpunk future. Yeah, you know, like the wall jumper on and like all the like cyber stuff that like the shades that Whit put on it. I was like, oh, it's like, you know, if like the Hovis granddad like lived in a dystopian cyberpunk future.
I know it looked really good. Also, while we're on the subject, now that the admin is done, thank you very much for all the work you've done on Compound Admin. I wish I knew how to do infographics. Maybe I should just ask someone who can do infographics. Hey, Wit, are you listening? You know, I love you, right? Thanks, bro. Thank you. Appreciate that. Bye. One who does infographics, and I'll just do an infographic of the whole thing so I can post it on Twitter and be like, right, here's everything for Games on Demand. Bam, done. And then just fold my hands back and then watch the nightmare begin. Because posting infographics shows that we are making a progress, and nothing would make me happier than going to Jude and John next year and being like, "Hey, we did it. We made it. We made it. Here's the progress made this year. Next year, we're gonna do exactly the same but better. We're gonna have more people and more slots. We're gonna have one extra slot because I'm nice to you, and it's gonna be lit." And that's what I want. I want to prove that we've done the job that we're supposed to do.
Yeah, and like you say, consistently looking to improve it and keep pushing it on to that next sort of step, which is what you've got to do, really. So say if you sort of like reach a plateau and you stay there, I think the interest level wouldn't be as high as it is. Whereas like people, I certainly know a few people like remarked positively on the changes that were made this year, like players who I recognise from the previous year. So you want them to think like, oh yeah, and if we come back next year, it's going to be even bigger, even better than it was this year.
True. And it wouldn't be bigger and better than it was this year without all of you. All you people who are listening who came to Games on Demand, those of you who didn't, you're betrayers, and I hate you all, and you should never speak to me again. And you people who came and ran me Games on Demand, so thank you very much for the work, for everything you've done. And I hope you had a great UK Games Expo despite some terrible things happening between it, and I hope we all have a fantastic time after that.
Yeah, I mean, just to echo what Lloyd said, I mean, massive thanks to all the people who came and played games, ran games, all the volunteers and the sort of people involved in the hierarchy of the UK Games Expo, who, as Lloyd said, Games on Demand wouldn't be possible, and obviously the rest of the con wouldn't be possible without them. So, and it's one of the things that always strikes me about the convention is it's all of the people sort of coming together in those various different capacities that make UK Games Expo as good as it is. And there's never been a year I mean, like I say, I've only been going like 2-3 years, but there's never been a year I've come to it and I've just been like, yeah, didn't really enjoy it. I mean, even this year, obviously, I'm sure you'll back us up, like it's quite tiring running the number of games, like, unless you're sort of like Martin Carson and you're just like, I can run another 24. But
it was his first year. He didn't know any better. It's fine.
But like I say, it is quite tiring. But I mean, even like
oh, side note, did you see how tired Richard was at the end of that? Poor Richard looked like he was gonna die. Oh my God, Richard, I'm so sorry. I just remembered it's your face, and oh my God, sorry, carry on. I'm interrupting you. Keep going.
No, it's all good. I was just gonna say I came away from that, and even though I was quite tired and like we had the journey home and whatever, because I'm starting like a new sort of like campaign in July, I was really enthused to like sort of start that, having been running the games and seeing like people playing it and enjoying different games over the weekend. I just think it really like injects some additional enthusiasm into like your love of the hobby. It sort of reignites your love of the hobby, and I think you only get that by playing like new games, playing with different people, and just sort of like getting that whole experience. I mean, the convention experience for me is certainly very different to any other experiences within the hobby.
And if you think you're good enough, tough enough, and badass enough to do this, please do come talk to me at Games on Demand. If you're at the UK Games Expo, bring a game, bring 2 games, bring 3 games, why not? And come on over and let's have a ball. Let's see what you got. I have a vetoing system. I don't tend to use it very often because at the end of the day, I still get to decide who gets to join and who doesn't. But I would love to see what you've got, and I would love to see how you rock with it. And so far, no one has gone too fast to prove me wrong in saying they deserve to be there. Every single one of my GMs, including you, Richard, I know you're listening. deserves to be here, and like all you gotta do is just come sign up and see what the fun is about.
And as you were saying, if you maybe not, you're not an experienced GM, or you're not entirely sure, there's going to be the sort of GM starter packs next year. So if you've even got a vague interest in GMing, or maybe you want to give it a go, see how it shakes down, that opportunity is going to be there for you. You can just come along, give it a try. I mean, what's the worst that can happen, really? You run a game, you decide, oh, it's maybe not for me. It's 2 hours. No great loss.
Although I'd suggest you probably turn up an hour early for that, so you
Yes,
can
please.
read the GM notes
Yeah,
before the players turn up.
It'll be a nice, simple, easy thing. You just turn up, take a look at it, and then we'll just go with it together. And there'll be a GM on your table to help you out if you're making horrible mistakes.
Yep.
And we also have people. Also, I think if we're lucky, we'll have people there whom I would go, do you mind being on the GM starter pack table for today, just once? Because it'll help me out. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of people who'll be happy to do it. And they will not make your life a living hell on purpose. Okay, Jenny, close that.
Okay, so but before we wrap this up, does anyone else have anything to say about the UK Games Expo and or Games on Demand?
Yeah, what did Trade House look like? Because I didn't see. I didn't see. I just wanted to buy some games.
The 1/4 of one that I got around had quite a few interesting demo board games on. I can't remember the names of any of them right now, but they were all quite cool, and I picked up a few cards.
Nice.
See, I had a look at a few roleplay books as we were walking around, and also a brief visit. But I was at the stage, by the time we got walking around, I was at that sort of I'm quite tired stage. I was like, oh, do you know what? I'm not going to buy anything now because I feel my judgment may be impaired. So I was like, I'm going to walk around. I'm going to note a couple of games that I think are they're interesting, and possibly earmark them for later, read into them a little bit. And
Spirit Games was busy as always. Phil gave me a lengthy story about how he's got 3 different versions of card payment methods just to make sure that when one cuts out, he can still take your money by another one.
Nice. We had the biggest stand we've ever had in our year. We had demo stand from Odysseus, and it was actually pretty cool. I wish I'd spent more time there, but I was running out, and I had to go. Okay, bye.
You were digging yourself out from that mountain of paperwork, guys,
help me! I gotta write all these numbers down. Shout out to the Indie RPG Pipeline for sponsoring us once again. Please go check it out. indierpgpipeline.blogspot.com. I'm sure John will put a link somewhere. I don't know how he'll do it, but figure it out.
Yeah, I'll put a link in the description of the podcast, man.
Yeah. And shout out to the RPG Design on Friday, 7 to 9. What started off as a small RPG design thing, when I went there at the end, was actually banging. And that was really cool. And we need to get more people into that. And those people need to come and run the games because I love them very much.
That's it, man. I've got to get around to going to that next year, man.
It was this year was legit. I popped in for 15 minutes because that's all I could spare. And I was like, wow! All right, I'm done.
Okay. Well, obviously, if you hadn't guessed, we all had a thoroughly enjoyable time at UK Games Expo. Quite tiring running all the games for Games on Demand, and Lloyd digging himself out from under a sort of mountain-sized pile of paperwork, but still very good fun. The fact that we're all meeting up to talk about this now, and we're not all sat here being I'm done. We're you want it to carry on, you want to run it next year, you want to make it bigger and better. I think speaks volumes for how enjoyable it actually was. And speaking to all the GMs and the players, there wasn't anyone who was no, I'm not. But everyone was really enthusiastic about it, really seemed to enjoy themselves. So.
Oh, I almost forgot one more shout out. I love you very much. Shout out to Broken Ruler Games for giving me the pre-gens for High Playing Samurai so I could run a 4-hour game of High Playing Samurai. Okay, carry on.
Okay, so if you're thinking about giving UK Games Expo a try, you've maybe not been already, I highly recommend it. Even if you can only get down for a single day, there's a great load of board games, role-play games, all that sort of stuff in the trade hall. Obviously, Games on Demand, if you can't, or you're unwilling to book yourself into one of the sort of advanced booking games, or maybe you don't book in time, that's another strength of Games on Demand. It's there, it's fairly easily and sort of instantly accessible. You just find a time slot, go buy a ticket from the desk, get yourself in there. You can have a great time playing some different games, maybe even jamming some games. So I really recommend you come down and give it a go. So thank you very much to Lloyd for joining us and to Hannah for joining us. Hopefully we'll all catch you at UK Games Expo 2020 for even more games on demand.
And also goodbye to all of you and Cthulhu Masters and Adventures League and also Pathfinder Society. I'm coming for you. I'm taking your slots. I'm taking your players. Just watch for this. Just watch for this.
Take care, everybody. We'll catch you soon. So we hope you've enjoyed this episode with us talking about UK Games Expo 2019 and Games on Demand. The song featured at the start of this episode was Exotica by Juanitos, available on the freemusicarchive.org and used under public domain license. Take care, and whatever you're playing, have fun. We'll see you next time.